Hello, everybody. This is DFS Chan coming to you here to talk about tomorrow morning, January 26th, DFS slate. Hope you guys are doing well. Yesterday, my microphone wasn't working for some reason, and all the stores were closed, and I was panicking a little bit, but I got it fixed. I think it was more of a hardware issue that I had to read a software issue and all that. So anyway, it is very nice to be back after one day off. Um, but yeah, let's dive in. We have a 5-game slate, the first 5-game slate of the year. 3 games in China, 2 games in Korea. We have a lot to talk about, so let's dive in. So let's see. The first game on the slate in China, Anyone's Legend versus Team WE. And then we have OMG versus FPX. We have BLG versus RNG. Anyone's Legend, all of these teams have had a game so far. Anyone's Legend is starting the same 5, same for Team WE. We saw, I think it was several days ago, Anyone's Legend won their first game of the season against FPX. And then I think Team WE struggled a lot versus OMG. And the Team WE lost their game in that against OMG. So, and then it's funny because like those opponents of these teams are playing against each other in the second game of the slate. So it's somewhat funky, and the data comparison, metric comparison are kind of funky as well, because also not only because it's a small sample size, only based on one series, but the fact that like all of these 4 teams are playing today, um, it's kind of weird. But anyway. So Anyone's Legend, I was pretty impressed with them in their win against FPX. Although FPX, their team roster is not very good, and I'll talk about that here shortly. But Anyone's Legend's win was impressive. Part of that, like I said, was at the expense of FPX's poor quality showing with their given their poor roster, right? So. I think, all in all, I think Anyone's Legends metrics are, padded in that win against FPX. But Krakow actually played pretty well. Like just based on my eye test, when he played against FPX, going up against 2 different jungling players in FPX, I thought he played pretty well. Just given the language issues and all that, I was a little bit concerned about him struggling early in the season, early in the split, but he actually played pretty well. And look, I mean, there were 3, maybe 4 instances in that series where he went into the bottom lane with Hope and Kale. Actually played pretty well there. Like that synergy was actually there. Shanks actually kind of held his own against FPX, which I thought he did a pretty good job. I think the metrics are somewhat okay for Shanks. I think he will get back into that great form that he was in last year, I think. I think Shanks is a great player. I think now that given with the new jungler, new support, I mean Harry in the top lane. I think AL has some high hopes this year. But Harry did not play that well last game, I think. Just based on the eye test and also looking at the metrics. So in the top lane in this matchup against Team WE against Wayward, I mean, I don't really have an edge there in favor of AL. I don't really see any edge either way. I think that's just a wash. Hung is the biggest question mark for me, along with Prince. Here, uh, Prince look like Prince has a hard time. Is having a hard time getting used to the LPL competition style of play. I thought he would actually fit in pretty well, just given how aggressive he likes to play, which he has shown in the LCS and LCK when he used to play there. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's just like they are not on the same page at times between the AD carry and support, between Prince and Iwandi, and then Hung just looks lost. Excuse me. Hung just looks lost in that matchup against OMG. Um, I think the question mark in that matchup against OMG was surrounding Xiao Feng, um, the OMG jungler who actually dominated Hung in that matchup. Now, in this matchup, will he bounce back against Krakow? I don't know. I don't think so. I think I'm impressed with Krako's quality jungling style compared to Xiaofeng's as well. So, what is there any reason for me to believe that Hung's gonna bounce back and dominate Krakow? I don't think so. Now, I think AL has a lot more win conditions. Like I said, I think jungle control, and I think the bottom lane have been better, at least from what I've seen so far. And then also in the mid lane, I like Shanks over Fofo. Fofo can pop off at times, but I just don't see that here against Shanks. I think the only few win conditions that Team WE has is that maybe Hung, Prince kind of, they just show up, play better. Their synergy looks better after a couple games in. And then Fofo dominating through the mid lane. Because I think in the top lane, that's just going to be a low kill participation on their own, matchup there, 1v1 there. But I think Fofo needs to play well. And then Hung really needs to play well. And Prince will come along, I think, just given how those two players play. But I'm just not impressed with how Team WE showed. And I think the fact that Krako's jungling style actually showed up for anyone's legend against FPX. I think FPX they threw two different junglers at Krako, Milky Way and what was his name? Meow. Moyan. Sorry, I was close. Did I say Meow? Sorry, Moyan. These names are sometimes difficult to remember, especially those new ones. So Milky Way starting today, and I'll talk about that in the second game shortly. But the reason I brought that up is Krucko went up against two of those junglers for FPX, and he still dominated both of them. So yeah, I think I'm leaning AL to win. Even though they are an underdog. I think Team WE is coming along though. I think their ceiling is probably a little bit higher in terms of the overall playoffs run throughout the year in the LPL. I think Prince's ceiling is higher than Hope. I think Hung's ceiling is higher than Krakow. A little bit by a little bit. Fofo, like I said, his range of outcome is bigger than Shanks. Shanks is a little more consistent, but Fofo ceiling is a little bit higher. But then his floor is high. His floor is lower too. So given all of that, yeah, there will be times where Team WE plays really well and beats some good teams, and beats some mediocre teams like anyone's legend that I'm projecting them to be in the LPL this year. And that could happen that could happen today. That could really happen. They can flip it around. But since that it's happened, their last game happened like 3 days ago in such a quick turnaround time. I still have to give my lean on anyone's legend to win tonight. I do think Team WE is a good play as well for GPP if you are looking for a team with high kill upside. This match, the total kills over under was set at 25.5, which is pretty high. I think it's the second highest on the slate, and then combined kills per minute is set at 1.53 total for both teams. But like I said, given the one series sample, it's a small sample, so I just would not trust that. But in terms of the overall kill upside, yeah, this one has the medium to high kill upside written all over it. All right. That is the first game. Let's look at the second game of the slate is OMG versus FPX. I think everyone's on the OMG train. Um, I have seen messages on Discord, on the True DFS Discord channel, and then also on Twitter. Some people have been messaging me that they just want to go all in on OMG. I think it's also the recency bias that you guys saw OMG dominating their game against Team WE. Yeah, but they did look good. I mean, Xiaofeng, like I said, was the question mark at jungle. It is possible that he could be really, really good, or he just had a really good game, and then he might just kind of, come back to come back to earth after that performance against Team WE. Maybe Hung was just that poor in that matchup. He's going up against Milky Way though. Milky Way was, like I said, one of those two junglers that FPX threw out against AL, and FPX lost that matchup. And I think I mentioned this on that video with FPX on the slate. I think Duck Dom and Life right here are gonna be the most overrated bottom duo in the LPL this year. Period. I know they're Korean and all that, and they did okay in the LCK, but I actually didn't like how they played in the LCK when I watched them, and I followed very closely the LCK. I thought Duck Dom and Life were more so carried by their peers on those respective teams that they played on previously. Now, playing with Milky Way, I just don't see that synergy being there at the moment. I very much prefer Xiaofeng, Starry, PP God, just based on the way they looked in their last game. But then in terms of I'll talk about other lanes and I'll talk about the ownership aspect of it. In the mid lane, it's an interesting one. I think Care, is good, and Angel's good, but his ceiling is kind of low, but he is experienced enough to stop the bleeding or stop the damage that Care may come out and fire at Angel. So I do think that will be mitigated if Care goes off and stuff like that. And then Xiaolao, who is a good player as well, and Cube is okay. So I do think there are few win conditions here as long as Milky Way kind of pulls his own weight against Xiaofeng, and then Duck Dam and Life do better than how better than what I expect them to be this year for FPX. But like I said, I'm still leaning OMG to win here tonight. But like I said, a lot of people are on OMG tonight. I think some people are going all in on OMG. I mean, it is a very OMG has always been popular. Let's just put it that way in the DFS world. I don't know if it's because of the acronym, because of the team name, because of the team color, because of their team identity, the way that they used to play, a very kill heavy, high pace games that OMG used to play with. Maybe it's that, I don't know, but I just don't think. Maybe it's a combination of all of those things, right? But um, I think the ownership on OMG might get up as high as BLG, who is the biggest favorite in the next matchup that I'll talk about. So from a ownership DFS standpoint, game theory standpoint, I just think you can maybe fade them. And this is the lowest projected kill upside match in the LPL games. All three games. This one has the lowest 24.5 total kills over under, whereas the Anyone's Legend and Team WE game is set at 25.5. And then the last LPL matchup between BLG and RNG that I'll just talk about here, it's set at 26 total kills over under. So this is the highest kill matchup that's on the slate based on the Vegas odds, which I'll talk about. But before I go there, I just wanted to reemphasize I think OMG has a lot more win conditions to beat FPX, but they will be highly owned. But in terms of who I think will perform well, Starry will look pretty good. I mean, but there is a chance if OMG loses game one, he may get subbed out, and then Abel comes in for Starry at 80 carry. So I just wanted to throw that concern out there, potential substitution risk. But otherwise, everybody else should be safe in terms of any substitution risk. All right, let's see. I'll pause there before I go into the BLG matchup, which I think it will be shorter discussion. I see that we have 17 people watching out there live, so thank you for watching. If you don't mind, please hit the like button and subscribe to the TrueDFS channel. TrueDFS.com is the website that I will be posting a premium article on the top plays and favorite bets and so forth. So please go check it out if you want to. But yeah, if you have any questions, please drop them into the chat and I'll answer them after this preview. All right, BLG versus RNG. BLG is dominant. I think they're going to finish as the top two, maybe top three LPL team in the LPL overall. They looked great last year. They have retained, I think all of the players actually, especially the jungler at June. I mean, I think I showed you this last time, but I mean, it's just a one game sample. But June is still dominant at the top of all the junglers in EGPM. That's great. And you see Krakow is a second, so that's why I also pick AL. But yeah, BLG looked really good. I mean, they looked really, really good. They beat Top Esports, I believe, and then RNG, their opponent in this matchup, beat. Let's see who did they beat. EDG. RNG beat EDG in their respective matchup. But BLG is a better team. They're just a better team. I mean, they are a juggernaut, along with JDG, in my opinion, top two teams in the LPL by far. There will be days, there will be times where BLG falls into a trap game and they lose, which could happen at times. But statistically, I test everything you can imagine. BLG should win, period. They should beat RNG. In the jungle, Shun is better than Wei. In the bottom lane, Elk and On have to play better than what I've seen out of LWX and Ming. I'm not a believer in LWX. Even in their last matchup against EDG, he was very hesitant. I did not like the way that he started off the games. Now in the mid lane, Tang Yuan actually played pretty well, I thought. But going up against Knight, I think he will struggle, if not a wash at maximum of Tang Yuan's skill set. And then Bin versus Breathe. Yeah, I mean, Bin, solid, consistent, more consistent than Breathe. I think the ceiling's even higher for Ben compared to Breathe. So in every single aspect you can imagine, BLG really should win this matchup, and that's why they're favored at -600. They have the super roster and everything. Now, I think the only few win conditions that I potentially see RNG can take to win this matchup is if early game Wei, LWX, and Ming play pretty well, and then just snowball that lead into the game and finish with a win. And then also in the top lane, I've seen a lot of other teams target other aggressive top laners like Ben himself, and snowball from there as well. I just don't think Breathe is that type of a player who can make that happen. Wei, on the other hand, their jungler for RNG can make that happen. Sometimes he plays very aggressively, and I really like that in this meta. You really need to make things happen around objectives, around help your teammates out rather than just focus on your individual development as the champion. I really do think he's gonna make a difference in the bottom lane, maybe in the top lane. But I think all in all, I think June is more than capable of countering that, if not maybe initiating before Wei gets there. I really think that's going to be the difference in this matchup. I like BLG to win tonight. I don't know if I'll have any RNG, but I do think just given the high kill upside that I talked about at 26 total kills over under projected, and then also CKPM is set at 0.78 and 0.75 for BLG and RNG respectively. But like I said, that's just based on one game sample. But BLG games tended to be high in kills last year, RNG as well last year, and they have the jungler returning as well. So I do think it's going to be a somewhat similar pace like last year. So I do think, yeah, I do agree with the odds here that it is going to be a higher in kills. I don't think it's going to be like the low kills that we saw in the Thunder Talk matchup, LNG matchup this morning. I could have said many things about that matchup and maybe went that way under total kills for that matchup this morning, but I don't think this is going to be like that matchup. I think 90% chance that I'm betting. I think it will be more than likely that it's going to be a higher kill matchup compared to other typical LPL matchups. I think there is a chance that BLG can just pure domination, dominate RNG and then maybe finish 15-5 or something like that. It could happen, but I don't think RNG will just roll over. And also, Wei likes to throw bodies at the opponents and but he's really trying to make a comeback and trying to make plays happen, which I really, really do like. I mean, that's why I have a lot of respect for Wei, but I have a lot more respect for June and the rest of the team for BLG. And that's why I'm picking BLG tonight to win in this high kill environment matchup. So I'll have a lot of BLG, even though, they are the biggest favorite and they will be high owned. I think they're just a better play and better pick than OMG stacks. But I understand given the DFS pricing differences where OMG's ownership can bump up a little bit more today. I think that is it for the LPL. I know we're at a 23rd minute mark, so let's dive into the Korean matchups. The first matchup in Korea is KT versus T1, the telecom war between the telecom companies. Teams, T1 is a heavy favorite at minus 525. We don't have to worry about any substitution risk for T1 here. We have Zeus owner, the GOAT himself, Faker, and Gumayushi and Keria starting at minus 525 favorite. Going up against KTs, I don't think there will be any substitution risk either for this lineup. At perfect, Pyosik, BDD, Deft, and Barrel in those respective positions. Now, who do I think is going to win? I mean, it's going to be T1, right? I mean, it's going to be T1. I know T1 lost that game or series against Gen G early in the split, but at the same time, we saw some signs out of T1, even though they were so behind. They were like 10,000 gold behind at once, but they still made some plays happen to get themselves back in the game, which is a great sign. It's a sign for a great team who can come back, who can win in many different ways. And T1 is the reigning world's champions that need to be respected. Now, they're going up against a good team, though. KT is going to be a playoff team this year, in my opinion. Pyosik, while he has a big, very wide range of outcomes, very low floor, very high ceiling, depends on his level of confidence in that series, but also based on how his teammates perform. He really feeds off of his teammates, even though he's a jungler. He really meshes well with confident players once his teammates and other lanes gain confidence and play well. He tends to perform and complement those players very, very well. Now, is that going to happen against T1? I think it really needs to. We really need to look at in the bottom lane. I think that is where the most damage needs to happen for KT to have a potential upset chance. Because I think BDD Faker is just going to be a wash. And then in the top lane, Perfect will be a motivated rookie who's going to go up against Zeus, who is also very young, and he was the rookie phenom that came into the LCK, who got the starting nod at top in the top lane for T1, the historic franchise. There were a lot of talks about him starting, controversies surrounding him, but look at him now, right? He's a world champion. He is the best player on this T1 team, fulfilled with stars, including the GOAT himself at Faker with Faker. But Zeus is the best player skill set wise for T1 in my opinion, along with Owner at jungle. So that's gonna be the kicker, I think, between Perfect Pyosik, Zeus, Owner, where I think T1 more than likely have an advantage there. Now in the bottom lane is where I have a little bit of concern. I think Gumayushi and Keria, sometimes they're on, sometimes they're off. When they're off, they really do their team T1 disservice. Really, all these three other players really have to help the bottom lane out sometimes. Now, do I think Deft and Barrel can keep up with Gumayushi and Keria? Yes. Do I think they can? They have the skill sets and confidence and the tendencies to dominate, exert dominance over Gumayushi and Keria in the bottom lane? I don't think so. I think Barrel has been picking a lot more aggressive champions in the last couple series. I think in Hui and Pike playing those champions, he's been getting a lot more kills and being more aggressive and trying to start more fights, initiate more, making things happen basically. But Deft, on the other hand, has been okay. Like he's been up and down. He's kind of more of a boring player. He just waits until the late in the game and kind of do well in that phase of the game. But I just don't think KT has that many win conditions through which they can upset T1. So I'm gonna go with T1 here tonight. I do think this is the better kill upside LCK matchup compared to DRX and Fox, which I'll talk about here shortly. So yeah, I'll have some T1, hoping that this game goes off. I do think this game will be higher in kills over at least one of these LPL matchups. If I have to guess, it's gonna be the ALWE, but I'm just gonna I'm just gonna say it like it is. Like KT and T1, they're gonna be motivated to play against each other, and the late trends favor these two teams to hit the total over under total kills at over total kills. So that's what I'm gonna go with, and that's gonna be one of my favorite bets. But if you want to see the other two bets that I have so far, come to the TrueDFS website and become a premium member. I think you will enjoy it. All right, last LCK matchup or last matchup of the slate. This 5-game slate is DRX versus Fox. I just wanted to quickly announce that these 5 starters for both teams, respectively, could change, just given how much they've struggled this year so far. I mean, it's only been what 2 games, but still, I think there is a chance that one of these players gets subbed out. We're not going to get starter confirmation for this matchup because it is the second LCK matchup. We're gonna get it, but it's gonna happen after lock, because it is the second matchup and happens later in the day in Korea. So if I see any starter confirmation for either of those teams, I will post it on my Twitter, but also I'll post it in the Discord channel. So yeah, feel free to join me there. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one. I think both are playing poorly. DRX especially, Sponge, Setup, Teddy, and then I think Willer closer played a little bit, have been playing a little bit better than Sponge and Setup. But I'll show you what I'm talking about when I say the stats. So here you see, I think I sorted it by EGPM. Yeah, that's the one that I typically look at. You see Closer has a better EGPM than Zetab, and I'll show you more in depth as to what that looks like. You see goal difference at 10 minutes. Closer has a higher goal difference, XP difference. And then you see at EGPM, I mean, it is a 55 EGPM difference, which is very, very significant. And Zetab has been one of the players that I'm concerned about maybe getting subbed out, or maybe just getting benched before the series. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. Between the junglers, it is interesting to see how big of a gap there is here. Even at the kill share percentage, you see Willers is really high. So if you are playing Fox today, make sure you include Willer in there as the jungler with the high kill share percentage like that. That is very rare, but for DFS, that is a golden gem. So make sure you include Willer, and if you are playing a Fox player stack, because that really is the golden ticket to make sure that you actually include a jungler there. But in terms of the EGPM, you see the big difference here as well by 56. Willer has an advantage for. So yeah, like I'm pretty confident that Fox is gonna win here tonight. DRX has been struggling a lot. Um, Sponge is not very good. Tab is not very good. In the bottom lane, Teddy actually, he's a solid player. He's been in the LCK for a long time. Same for Rascal. But I think Henna and Execute, their metrics are not that far behind Teddy and Play. I think they will do just in the top lane is where a little bit get concerned about, and Rascal can definitely carry a team to victory, but can he do it in 2 games in a best of 3 series? I don't think so, and that's what we saw out of DRX in the last 2 series. That's why I think Fox will win. But in terms of the DFS kill upside, this is the lowest. The total kills over under is set at 22. CKPM DRX is notoriously known for playing very slow this year and late last year as well. Their CKPM this year is set at 0.55, which is the lowest by far. I think in the LCK, maybe. Let's look at that. Yeah, you see it here at the RX 0.55. So I think it definitely reduces the kill upside in this matchup between DRX and Fox. You see Fox is up here though at 0.82. So if Fox dominates the jungle, which they probably will over DRX, Fox's CKPM will be more of a dictating factor. So maybe it'll come up, but still, like on average, it's gonna be a much lower kill upside matchup between compared to KT and T1, where they have 0.82 and 0.81. I think it's going to come down here, about here, just by the fact, by the sheer fact of playing against DRX. So it is the matchup that I am more than likely to avoid by not playing any of these two teams. But in the team slot is where I am interested in, and I am leaning Fox to win this matchup, and also given that Willer is most likely going to dominate that jungle on the map over Sponge. So that is where I am going to go with these 5 games. I hope you enjoy this video. Like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I have one question real quick. I know it's about a 35-minute mark. Jolly asked, is playing WE with BLG a good match? It depends, right? Like I think if you are playing WE and BLG stack, you are foregoing the chance of playing OMG. Some people think OMG is in a smash spot, but it is going to be highly owned. I definitely think that is going to be one of the lower owned LPL only team stacks that you can have. I think a lot of the team stacks will have OMG um, as one of the stacks actually, given the pricing difference and all that. But at the same time, I'm not, you know, too worried about that on a 5-game slate, right? Like at the end of the day, you want to play the best plays. You want to play those players that you think will perform well in a high kill environment. So that is, I think it's a good match, right? Like I think it's a good match. Um, you're hoping by playing that pair, you're hoping that the OMG FPX either scores low in kills or maybe FPX upsets OMG and you'll have a natural leverage there. In terms of how to stack them, depends on the pricing. I haven't really looked at the pricing yet on DraftKings. So I'll have to look at that. But if that allows you to put, captain one of the carries, mid laner, 80 carries, and maybe junglers, feel free to do so. And I said this on the last video, but coming into this new meta, I thought 80 carries would definitely by far have a lot more kills and kill share percentages. That's been generally true, but there have been some mid laners that have performed exceptionally well by racking up a lot of kills in the mid to late game phase. And I attribute that to two factors: is one, mid to late game, these mid lane players have had a lot more chance and opportunities to uh, basically focus on their development, focus on getting a lot of gold, focusing on a lot of the resources that they can obtain, in those full 20, 30 minutes and attain those items where they can excel in the mid to late game by using those items. So in other words, they just had a lot of time by themselves, not having to worry about roaming to other parts of the map. So from the DFS standpoint, that's a long way of saying yes. I mean, I think mid laners are definitely in play a lot more than I expected initially. I was wrong about that. But it kind of makes sense now to think about it a little bit, as long as they're still involved in those kill participations and all that. And there are a lot more team fights, early, mid to late game now in this meta. So that naturally involves the mid lane champions, mid lane and players, and rack up a lot of kills there. So I just wanted to point that out. But one note to make on that point is that I would look at the kill share percentages for those mid laners to see if they have the ceilings necessary to be able to make the optimal captain. Some players in the mid lane do not have that kind of upside. So I would take a look at their historic kill share percentage, also what kind of role that they play on their respective teams, and so forth. So that is what I'm recommending, just looking at that kill upside by looking at the kill share percentages. All right. The next question is, who is your favorite 80 carrier in the LPL and LCK? It depends, right? It depends on who you think will perform, which team you think will win, and which high kill environment. That's a good question. I mean, based on the Vegas odds, I mean, right? Like I talked about Elk the other day, um, but I think Knight really stole the show that night. But yeah, I mean, I'll go with Elk if I have to answer that question. All right, let's see. Sean said no one will want to play WE and KT. Let's see, WE here, KT. Yeah, WE is going to be low owned. I think a lot of people will pick AL like me, but I think it's a toss up, more of a toss up than people think. KT. Yeah, KT is an interesting one. Yeah, I agree, Sean. Like KT definitely has the roster to be able to beat T1. T1 early in the split, maybe get caught off, like they did against Gen G several days ago. But you saw KT lose to was it Brion? No, I was like one of the bad LCK teams. They just didn't look great. KT, they can bounce back, but like I said, T1, I think they got their loss already in the split. I think they're just gonna start focusing and kind of they've shown enough even in that series loss, where I think they can step up. I think they're only gonna improve going forward. Yeah, mids and supports have been popping off, and so on the support, that's an interesting point, Jay Whitty. Um, a lot of the champions that the support players have been playing, except for a few players like Beryl, a lot more supportive champions like Milio. Is a good champion too, as an example, where they just their involvement and kill participation is very high naturally, just given the role that they're playing in, with along with AD carry supporting him. So, and then also the support players, a lot of them tend to roam with the junglers. So whenever junglers get the kills, whenever AD carries get the kills, support is there more than often than not, accompanying them. So that gives them assists, and their kill participation percentage has been really high. I think in this meta, I think support is a good pick, and I think there's a lot more. I can go into this in a very detailed and analytical way, but I think number wise and metric wise, if your AD carry scores well, their support will follow well as well, and then score high. So that is like there's a very strong positive correlation between AD carry and support on this meta. So if you are playing on some AD carry in the captain spot, I would definitely play the support from that exact same team. At support, I would not, you know, I would not play the support from the secondary AD carry player that you're playing. I would definitely, positively correlate that support with the captain AD carry player that you're captaining, because of the current meta situation and the high kill participation percentages that I've been seeing. Yes, Pixel Solo, it's nice to meet you. Nice to see you as well. Yeah, I mean, like I said, AL is the pick that I'm going with. Riri, but it's a toss up. I think it's a toss up. But just based on the eye test, I like AL much better. And the reason for that is I said it earlier, but main reason is the synergy, the lack of synergy between Hung, Prince, and Iwandi there, and not much of an upside that I've seen so far out of Prince. Even in team fights, I think there will be some struggles between Prince and Hung, and I think that part of that is the language barrier issue there. And Kroko, same thing applies there as well, but I've seen more out of them in that first series, that they have what it takes. Let's see. Any underdogs? I mentioned few that I think has a chance. Obviously, like either of these teams, Team WE is, even though they're not an underdog, like they are considered an underdog. I think the ownership on AL is pretty high, given how many I have seen other players are picking AL stacks. And then let's see. I think I talked about KT potentially, and then maybe FPX, but I'm not a believer in Duck Dumb in Life, so I think I'm just gonna play OMG. Is Iwandi supporting for Team WE? Yes, he is starting there. Yes, exactly. Fiercely. He said it better than me. He added two more champions that I talked about. Like I said, if you are captaining an AD carry player, positive correlation. I would play the support from the same team. Support captain with AD carry. On a 5-game slate, I don't recommend it. I think that just reduces a lot of kill upside. But it can happen. It can happen. Yours will definitely be different. On a 5-game slate, I think there's a lot more reasons to play one of the traditional carry roles players. FPX will upset. Yeah, it could happen. It could happen. I'm just not a believer in Duck Diamond Life, that bottom lane, and I heard off the record invoice communications where I think they struggled quite a bit with the language issues. It was like quiet for like 5 seconds. They just weren't talking for FPX. But anyway, I hope I answered all your questions. It was a very productive discussion and video. I hope you enjoyed the time with me. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Until then, I'll have another video tomorrow. We have another 5-game slate on Saturday. Until then, I hope you guys win, take down the main GPP. Hope you guys win. Hope you guys make some money. Any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching. Until then, see you later.